Okay, I started the recording.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So today is February 7th, and we're calling the meeting to order at 7:03. Brian Sorrow,
Yes.
Abby Velasco, present. Brandon Marino,
Here.
Barry Johnson,
Here.
Richard Nitterberg,
Here.
Mary Mallory, absent. Chief Joseph de Jesus de Luna, not here today. Patty Kirby, not here today. Scott Mandel,
Present.
okay. So do we have a quorum? I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we do. So we have a quorum. Great, yay.
Well, Scott doesn't count, but we still have a quorum with 5 of 8.
We have 5 present. All right, so approval of November minutes. That is the Zoom recording. It is not a requirement to type actual minutes when we're being recorded. When we return to in-person meetings, then yes, it will be a requirement. But as of now, it is not. So I assume you had the time to maybe review the Zoom recording. So if we have approval, thumbs up.
Yep. Approval.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3. Karen, I'm sorry, Ren, do you have an update?
Oh,
I
and
don't
I
have-
raised my hand for number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed you. Sorry. Barry, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say regarding in-person meetings, for both committees and the board, it's very simple to do written minutes. All you have to do is basically write your agenda item and tell what was voted on, if it was a voting thing. So you basically put what it says in your agenda item and say, the committee voted 5 to 8 in favor of the motion going to the board, something like that. But if you look at the ones I do for my 2 committees, that's what I do. And essentially the same could be done for the board, except you would need the names of how people voted if it's a money vote. But otherwise you can just
okay.
do, yeah. It's really easy. It's not rocket science, and we don't have to make it that way. Thanks.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
Caller user number 1, go ahead.
Did you vote to approve the minutes? I didn't hear a voting at all, but I guess you don't want to do that. That's just like what Van Nuys does. They don't like to do stuff like voting. So we don't know who voted and voted for what. Oh, I forgot. That's why there's written minutes. So we don't know who voted for what, but it sounds like you have to look at the recording. Second issue, the reason why you have minutes is so a visually impaired person or audio impaired person is able to know what went on. Some of your Zoom stuff is not clear, but you know what? You could just be like Van Nuys, in which they don't give a shit. They'll just say, talk to the city attorney, talk to Dunn, and not respond to Public Records Act requests. That's the best way to do it. So there's nothing to approve. What is there to approve? It was a visual thing, and if someone needed assistance, do you guys want to help someone that under ADA for visual impairment or audio or some other type of impairment? Wouldn't that be nice for a good 4 or 5 hours? I think that's something to think about, but who cares? Help most, but not all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Well, at board meetings, we have BACs anyway, so we know who voted for what.
Okay, so should we go for a vote to approve minutes? Or if it's a yes, recording Zoom, please Let's vote, so let me. Ransaro,
Yes.
Adi Velasco, yes. Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Barry Johnson. Barry, I can't hear you.
Patty's here.
Barry. We'll come back to Barry. Richard Netterberg,
Yes.
Mary Mallory. She's not here today or not yet. Chief Joseph de Jesus de Luna, not here yet. Patty Kirby,
I'm sorry, I have to abstain because I came on late and didn't hear any discussion.
thank you. Scott Mandel,
Yes.
okay,
Oh,
so,
there's Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
And you were coming back to me.
yes,
Hello.
Barry,
So I will vote yes, but really all you have to do is say, hearing no objections, they're therefore deemed approved.
okay, thank you. So minutes approved. And we'll move on to item number 3. Rand, do you have an update?
Item number 3 is the co-chair.
You can go first.
Okay. I have no updates.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my little update is that next month we are moving to in-person meetings. And so if you are unable to make it to the in-person, you can please let us know to Rand and to me that you're not going to be able to attend the meeting, so we can remove you from the committee member or the list. And that is just because that would it's just for our committee in case we need to, so we can have a quorum. That's all. And then it will be nice for us to know if you're going to be able to attend our meetings or not. That's all. Oh, and that was my item number 4. Moving on to public comment, item number 5. Do we have a public comment on non-agenda items with our committee's jurisdiction? Caller user number 1. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, you're running a terrible meeting, and I'm going to tell you why. If you ran it like Van Nuys, you would lie, cheat, steal, be a complete jerk, make sure there's no really written agenda except some major grammar problems. That's another problem with your agenda. There's no grammar problems. You would also not call on people for public comment and just say, I didn't know. What else are you doing wrong? You got to go to Van Nuys and see how they fuck up, and that's the best way to put it. So if you can't start fucking up, I'm going to file a grievance against you for not screwing up. Another thing, it doesn't sound like you listen to Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Saying, well, we could talk offline, you could send me an email, I don't answer Public Records Act requests, who cares about the Brown Act, liberal. So you're not doing that, so we gotta stop this nonsense. I just don't like it. If you keep this up, I'm going to the city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Is it point of information or question or do we need a timer for comments? Or do you think we're okay, Scott? Hello?
If you guys want to time your public comment, that's completely
You
up
can
to you.
time him, Ren, if you like.
The time, 1 minute or 2 minutes, or
You're the chair.
I think it's
You don't have too many people from the
We
public.
don't have too many people, so, but
It's
you're the
okay.
chair,
Up
go
to
ahead.
you. Whatever you want to do.
let's make it 2 minutes. And I'll keep the time.
Okay, so moving on to item number 6, discussion recap luminaria event. This discussion is being led by Barry Johnson. and Richard Niederberg. So Barry, please go ahead.
I thought the event basically went well considering the weather. And we actually had, I think, more people than we had in 2019. And that with that one, we had rain closer to the actual start time of the event. But for me, I think the one thing we need to change if we do it in 2023 is, and Richard and I have talked about this, the tea lights have to go. They are not bright enough. It defeats the whole purpose of calling it a luminaria. And we have to go and buy string lights again, but this time we will buy LED string lights, which are bright and they don't use much power. When we did these at least 4 years ago with the old string lights that weren't LED, they used a lot of power and they would trip circuit breakers, and which was one of the reasons we had to buy generators. So I'm pretty confident using LEDs, we won't have any kind of electrical surge or not enough electricity to run them. So, and those white LED lights are fairly inexpensive. Probably even a little bit less than buying a whole new round of tea lights. So I don't know. Richard, why don't you go ahead and maybe I'll think of something else.
I concur with what you said so far. Although I think it's throwaway like we have already. You know, we have a lot of them, but let's not be wasteful. LEDs, which of course have brighter, and I agree with what you're saying. I don't think we have to a total changeover, you know, for budget reasons and all that. Okay, that way. That's all I can think of right now. But we have.
And I thought of one other thing. And this could even be done via our election committee, and it's not just the luminaria, it's basically for all the events we do, but particularly the luminaria since it's our biggest event. And that is both in our election cycle, and then once people are elected, the president, I think in both sections of time, it needs to be said to the people running, the expectations of you being at these big events that the neighborhood council does, and there's no excuse for not being there other than sickness or a wedding or something. And, you know, and again, I think then when the people are sworn in, I think the president needs to, again, remind them of that. But I think it needs to be in our written election material, encouraging people to run. Because people that run that then don't want to do anything, which we've had several of this year, these 2 years, it just defeats the purpose. And it makes the ones that do stuff have to work twice as hard with the other ones doing no work. So that would be all I would say. But I think considering our manpower issue, we did quite well at this year's. Anyone else?
I think we have a comment from the public. Should we go to public comment and then we'll come back to the board?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Caller user number 1. Ren, if you can, please.
Yep,
keep
I'm
timer.
started. Yep, when
Starting.
she starts, yep.
Once again, the Studio City Board is not taking and following the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council. Why are you actually holding in-person events not focused on the homeless criminals? You guys are trying to do something creative and project the stakeholders of the community. You can't do that anymore. That's just terrible of you. You need to be like Van Nuys and Kathy Schreiner, the socialist. You got to do socialism. And it's very important that you do socialism to make sure it ruins everybody. So that's what you need to do, is start going to Van Nuys so you know how to be non-transparent, be like Brandon and have a breakdown. And, you just got to stop it. You got to be like done, lie, cheat, and steal, and shit on yourselves. That's how you have to do it. But you keep doing stuff that is benefiting the public, and you got to stop this crap. Okay? Come over to Van Nuys to see all the homeless criminals and what needs to be done for them. Throw away the money to the nonprofits, where the 75% of your money will go up there, or the determination letter from the IRS has been revoked, or the suspended corporation and stuff like that. You got to stop putting on stuff like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? No? Okay. Jeff, hello.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Okay.
I just have a couple of things. I was there from the setup till when we closed down the event. I don't know, I have some mixed feelings about it. I thought it went fairly well, given the inclement weather, and it was really bad weather. But the turnout wasn't that great. We had lots of wonderful volunteers. I really appreciated the school kids that came out to pour sand in bags and put the lights in the bags and whatnot. But it was a little bit of a debacle as well. I mean, the wind blew down most of the bags. Most of the lights weren't actually visible or working. I think a lot of people who visited were kind of clueless about what was going on. I don't think it was advertised that well. And then the other disappointing thing was probably a third of the board didn't bother even showing up to help. And the usual people who show up for events were there, but a lot of board members really weren't responsible in showing up for something that works for months. So I don't know that I think we should take a poll of members, of the board members, and see if it's even worthwhile to have again next year, given the rather poor turnout. Maybe the weather will be bad next year as well, or rather this year. But I don't know that it's worth it. I mean, the band was great, but a lot of people who visited were groupies of the band or friends of the band. And once the band packed up and left, a lot of those people left as well. So I think we need to rethink whether or not this is actually an event moving forward. And if it is a viable event, then we need to really do more to make it successful in terms of marketing and actually implementation of the lighting and whatnot.
And two things, Jeff. I think we should not take a poll of the board until we have a new board in June, because asking board members now that are leaving, it's just, why bother? We have to see if there's an interest with the new board. And secondly, and this is something I thought of a few weeks ago, I think from now on, if we do it, that we do it the first Sunday in December and always have a rain date of the second Sunday, so that if we 48 hours in advance know of imminent rain, we could postpone it a week. So that is something we could do. Although I will say, in having done it 10 different times, we've had rain 2 or 3. So we have a pretty good record. And of the 7 times for sure that we didn't have rain, we had as many as 450 people over the 4 hours. So just food for thought.
Thank you, Barry. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a few points. I created an email filter for Luminaria, and I have 645 emails that came in regarding Luminaria. So that gives you a bit of the size and scope of the logistics of getting this planned. In addition to the days we worked, Barry and I spent quite a few days on the lot going through stuff and testing, and I had to get the sound material all set up to make sure that was going to work, because we lost our sound engineer. We had 3 board members, 2 of them who never even answered a single email about Luminaria and just completely brushed it off. 1 board member who RSVP'd to be there to help and never showed up. We spoke about this ad nauseum. I mean, meeting after meeting after meeting, that Luminaria is coming, it's coming, it's coming. Please sign up. We, all hands on deck, bring people to help. And those board members have never, to this date, participated in any single SCNC event. And we know who they
Wait,
are.
hold on just a second.
Oh,
Sorry.
so, and we know who they are, and there's no enforceability of our 10 hours per year. I mean, that's kind of nothing, right, to do outside of the board, and they don't do it. As far as the Luminaria, I think all the suggestions are good. I think we should start it earlier and not have anything going on when nightfall hits, because it's cold and it's dark, and just try to pace the events so when nighttime hits, it's the lanterns. There are no speakers, there are no bands, there is nothing going on at night. It was cold and a lot of people were kind of uncomfortable from that, so we would start earlier. And remember, there was a big kerfuffle amongst the board regarding separation of church and state. There was a lot of petty infighting between the board before this event, and this was just like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, where there was some I don't know where that came from, but it was deemed a religious event, and there was a big discussion back and forth for that. And then earlier on, I mean, again, I don't want to just put a wet blanket on it, but the plug was almost pulled and the whole thing was canceled because we had a bit of a lack of organization. And it's just because we don't get any participation from enough of the board. We get a lot of suggestions and a lot of people raise their hand and make comments, and then nobody does anything. And it's just the same people who are at all her events doing the same work every time, and it gets frustrated. And I agree with Barry that we have to make it really clear to people who come on the board that events are something that we do. That's one of our key duties, and this is why we're here. And if you're not going to show up to the events, and mind you, these people also don't show up to committee meetings, and their attendance at board meetings is very poor too. So I don't know what they're doing on the board to begin with. So anyway, that's my, and let's throw the tea lights in the sand away and come up with something other than sand. I felt like I had a day at the beach after we packed up. I had sand somehow everywhere. But yes, we should wait to see if the next board is interested in. And lastly, I think from budget last night, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, I think we came in under budget substantially. Is that
We've always come in under budget for 10 years in a row.
okay? Well, that's always a good thing. Someone else.
Thank you, Scott. Peter, please go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, you're bringing up board participation, and I won't blast this out at every board member, but I find it humorous that people decide to run for these boards and have never attended a meeting. And then particularly the former outreach chair who doesn't take input from people that have been around for 10 years. So, and I've seen this before where people get on the board, they get in a committee, they think they know better, but there's all this stuff that happened before them that they end up repeating. And I've watched it over the 8 or 10 years I've been here. Every outreach chair makes a mistake that somehow causes less participation. Then you go to a board meeting and then particular board members decide to have a feud with a stakeholder. and escalate it instead of saying they're sorry. So they end up pissing off the people that actually know how these events go together and have done them. And these are the people that participate. So once again, it's I don't know how you keep people from applying for gigs, these positions. There should be mandatory that you need to, you need to go to X amount of meetings and see how, it's like joining a club, and
Peter?
as soon as you join the,
Do you have any comments about the event?
yeah, in a second. Well, it's, you're joining a club and you try and change all the rules. As far as the lights go in the event, we always used to use, well, not always, but the times I've helped, we use Christmas lights in the bags. So you take a bag and you string out a bunch of Christmas lights. You pop a hole in the bottom of the bag and stick the light through the bag, and forget those little tea lights. So that's what was done in the past.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Caller user 1, please go ahead. Ren, time, please.
Got it.
Caller user number 1, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to make sure we're on number 6, is that correct? Madam Chair?
Correct.
Okay. I think you guys have done a very good job on that, but you still need to go over to Van Nuys and deal with Kathy Schreiner, the socialist president, on how to disenfranchise the public. You're doing a shitty job for that. You need to make sure you penalize the stakeholders, tell them what to do, bring up all your crap. Thank you.
Thank you, caller user 1. Peter, do you still have a comment? I just see your hand up. No? Yes, no. Okay, any other comments? I'd like to comment. Okay. Overall, I think the Luminaria is a lovely event. I think it really brings the community together. It's been done for 10 years. Prior to joining the board, I was only able to attend to one, and just for various reasons. And I really thought before even joining the Studio City Neighborhood Council, it was a lovely event. I really enjoyed it. My husband enjoyed it. And once I became part of the Neighborhood Council and Cultural Affairs, I was really, really excited. But now seeing everything from behind the scenes, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but I was happy to help as much as I could. And then things did get, we did experience a lot of hiccups, especially with paperwork. Paperwork was very late, extremely late. And so all of a sudden, it was just several of us trying to gather the many missing pieces. But eventually we pulled it off. And I think now that when we were at the event, the band was great. The carolers, the bells, Barry did an excellent job with the snacks. So it was really a lovely event. And my 2 cents would only be to maybe shorten the event. So there's no, maybe we don't have a gap. So it's like the band and maybe the carolers right away. So people don't have to wait. I felt that even though they weren't waiting too long, it probably for the guests, the wait seemed like to be they were waiting too long, maybe because it was cold. There were some neighbors that went, and they were saying that they would love to stay, but it was getting a little bit too cold. So maybe we can work around that if we were to do this next year. I would still vote yes for the Luminaria, and maybe, I don't know, like a little tent and a little heater inside to keep people warm. That will be my only 2 cents. And I don't know, Luminaria, how, I really love the tea bags, but the sand, I really felt like I went to the beach after that. I was in heels and my heels had sand. Scott and I, we were just playing around with those bags. We didn't know it. So Scott, you gotta say, we had fun even though removing the sand. We make the best of it at the end. So I think overall, Barry and Richard, you've been doing this for 10 years. I give you a lot of credit. I take my hat off for you. And again, if we were to do it again, maybe we can think about, Peter mentioned something about the lights, maybe using something different for I think it is a nice touch, but that would be my only, my 2 cents. That's all. Over.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Well, like I said, we're not going to use the tea lights again. And I think the string lights, like Peter was saying, and I also said, will make the bags stand out. And perhaps we could start at 2 o'clock instead of 3, but you have to have the event go long enough still for people to be able to see the bags lit up. But I think if we went 2 to 6, we would achieve that. Because remember, it's not really fully dark until 5.
Mhm.
But then we could, have the bell ringers at 5 instead of 6, and that way, when people are leaving, the lights would be standing out, out in that 5 o'clock hour.
We would have I think we have another 9-10 months to think about what are we gonna do instead of tea bags. But maybe, I don't know, I love the 2, maybe 2 to 6.
Yeah.
That will be probably better for people. It was cold. I'm used to the cold environment, and I had a big jacket, even though I was wearing a dress and heels, but I was still able to do it. But there was a lot of people were saying that it was pretty cold. So again, my 2 cents would be the little tent, something that doesn't look too tacky, something cute. But again, we can just, kind of like think about what we could do that to keep everybody comfortable. And, it's festive with winter.
Or maybe
You almost have to put on the
rent.
flyers, dress warmly if it's cold, because Southern Californians are such idiots.
Maybe we could rent heaters.
We can rent heaters, like little.
Because the band is playing in the
People
cold.
could be up. People could be
too,
in the
right?
little tent, and they're warm inside, and the band is playing. So I don't know. We'll play around with it. We'll think about it in a way to keep everybody comfortable, and they can still enjoy.
We own the canopies. Just have-
Okay, we can use it. I think Scott has a comment. Go ahead, Scott.
So I know I was all gloom and doom before, but I just want to make just a couple very fast points. One, I was wearing shorts. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It was not cold. Number 2,
I was wearing a dress and heels.
at least all of the drama that I described did not take place the day of the event. And I have to admit, all of us who attended and pitched in and worked our butts off, we definitely made the best of it. And we had no instances of, at least that I recall, any drama and infighting. And we sort of put our best face and foot forward, and we did a great job considering the circumstances. So everyone deserves a thank you. Also, especially Miranda McCord at Rec and Parks. Boy, did she really chip. That's her name, right? Miranda? Yeah.
Miranda.
And we'll see what next year brings.
Mhm.
Mary,
Director of Rec and Parks also like this. He found no mistakes at all. I ask him, as I always do, to make sure, is there anything else we have to do? Is it all right? He said, look, hey, we're all cleaned up. And his answer was yes, every time. We take good care of it, and let's keep that up.
And Tiffany was great too. She paved the way for a lot of things leading up to, including getting the chairs when the Campo historical board said we couldn't use theirs. So she came to the rescue.
Mary, welcome. You just joined. Is there
Thank
something
you.
we're still on item 6, Mary? Is there something that you would like to share about the luminaria?
Well, it was a hassle getting everything going. I will say, yes, Tiffany was great. If she hadn't helped push some of this stuff through with the entertainment, I mean, who knew it was going to be so difficult with all that they had to do, and they all stuck with this, luckily. But it would have been nice if more people had volunteered. Everyone that was there did a great job, but if there'd been more hands, things might have gone more quickly and everything. But I think it ended up going well. Obviously, if the weather probably kept some people away that day, but more hands always help with anything.
And you did a great job, Mary, with the musicians. I know working with that, putting together the contract and what was not required. It was challenging. It was challenging. So
This was the most, all the extra stuff that they had to do this year than they had done in years past. And it seemed like if Tiffany hadn't been involved, she might even gotten them past them having to pay for a license. I mean, if they had to pay, we might have, lost a lot of those entertainers if that was part of it. So,
Can you talk about that in more detail? Like, what did they have to do?
so
And
in the past, what they
Sure.
had to do was, because they sent us an invoice, there was it was called a BTR like form that they had to fill out with the city to show that they were like a vendor with the city. And then they had to, there was what would you call it? Like a waiver type thing where they about, I
liability,
guess,
or
it's like insurance type of thing.
liability.
Well, this year, so it's like, okay, well then now you have to go in on your own, upload all this stuff, make sure that the computer system form accepts you, and then get us insurance and all this insurance, and you have to list the city as a thing. So multiple ones had to redo it because it wasn't quite right. And then now you have to have this license with the city. So like Tiffany said, she would put it straight through, or they, so every time we thought we had something taken care of, well, wait, now there's this you got to fill out.
And there was probably COVID protocols they had to do as well.
Well, yeah, so that was
right?
part of the thing that, luckily, we didn't really do that, but like the Bell group inside, the groups outside, it wasn't really a problem. It was basically more the Bell group inside that there were supposed to be COVID protocols. They were willing, I think he even sent me their COVID, their vaccination and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was just.
thank you so much, Mary. Do we have any other comments regarding the Luminaria?
Well, at least if we do it again this year, we probably are not going to have to deal with anything COVID unless there's something new by December.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Let's hope for that. Any other comments before we move on to the next item?
Well, I think people enjoyed it, the people that came, Also,
Yeah, I
Makes
received
it look
really
good,
good
too.
comments.
What were the speeches like?
I think also we looked good as neighborhood council doing that, and to have the company Coinga to be on the map more than it already is. I think that's doing something for the public that I think is beneficial.
Well, one thing, it looked like Corian and Nithya Raman were enjoying
Yes.
themselves. They stayed beyond their little speeches. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Corian stayed there for a while.
That was actually really good. Lana did an amazing job as an MC. Kokorian showed up, and also Councilmember Rahman was there. Jorge was there too. And so I think overall, I think it was a great event. So, yeah. Okay, so should we move on to item 7?
I just want to stay with this for a second. I think this should be a discussion with the whole board. Scott, is it possible that we could have a discussion about Luminaria with the whole board?
Sure.
I think that the committee chair or chair should just make a report to the board. This is not something that needs to be hashed out and make our board meetings any longer than they already are. And again, as I said before, talking about what we did this year in terms if we're going to do it again, it needs to wait till we have a new board after June, because some of the people that didn't participate now it's worthless to have them in this discussion if they're not going to run again.
Well, then can we make a commitment to talk about it with the full board once it's together then? Yeah. And when would that be? August? I mean, I think, there obviously were other board members that experienced the luminaria, weren't there, Scott? Like 2 or
It'd be
3.
July.
Pardon? There were at least, I know our treasurer was part of it, and Brandon was part of it. So I believe that it's important when you're having an important event like that, which takes up a major part of our budget, and we ask the board to support it every year. It needs to be, everybody needs to contribute so that we can solve problems that come up and also generate new ideas, because it was a lot of work for Mary, for Abby, for Scott, for you and Richard. I just couldn't be involved that much. So,
But it's a discussion to be had in July, not now. We cannot
but
be keep
that is
rehashing
without
this for the
the
next
experience,
6 months.
Barry, that's without the experience of other board members that were with this event that can contribute important information to make the next one better.
And that's what committees are for.
This is a board, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I want the whole board to participate, but we're only going to make the decisions in committee. This is a board sponsored event. It is our biggest budget
Right.
item.
And when we have a new board, then we will talk about going forward and say, if you don't commit to participation, then we're not going to have it. Pure and
Scott,
simple.
as
But
chair of
having
this
that
committee-
discussion with the current board is a complete waste of time. We have other stuff to
Okay.
do in these spring months now than going over an event from December of 2022. We have to move forward with spring events.
Is it possible to make a motion on this?
No,
Abby?
because it's not on the agenda.
We should have included that. Scott,
Well,
I
I
think
don't think you should have, because
I
I don't
disagree
think that we
with
need to
Barry,
keep
and this is a board
discussing.
sponsored event, and we need the contribution of board members. Specifically, our treasurer asked us to do it at the last meeting. And Barry, you're not going to override the whole board on this.
And the treasurer can be part of that discussion in July, whoever the treasurer is. But
If
rehashing
it's-
it now does nothing.
What are you afraid
Because
of?
the people we
Why are you
rehash
afraid of
with
it?
may not even be on the board come July.
That is without the information. You're talking about, you are absolutely not including the experience of people who have been there. And you're saying, why don't people stick around? Why don't people commit more? Because you're just rolling over them and not allowing the people that are involved to make things better and to
The
have a
people that
contribution.
were involved are all present tonight. The
They're not
key
all present.
players are present except for Kim.
That's not
Everyone
true.
is here. It is true.
Kim and
It
Brandon
is
were key players.
absolutely true.
Scott, I'm asking you, and I think as president, you understand the importance of the board going over what we can do better. I'm not trying to kill Luminaria. I'm trying to make it better. for
Well,
you
let's
guys,
make it
'cause I
better
won't be
come
here.
July.
They won't, you want to have it both
When we
ways,
have a
Barry.
new board. When we have a board that would actually be participating next December.
You are
if we
arguing
just chose
against
to
the
do it.
participation of the whole board on this.
And
You are arguing
do it in
against it.
July. Do it in July when you
Without
have
the
a board.
history, without the history of the people who experienced this event. That doesn't make sense.
you've got 10 years of history with Richard and I.
So if we have a very full agenda for February, it's probably going to be a 4-hour meeting again. This will probably turn into more of a post-mortem and turn into an argument and finger pointing against the people who didn't show up, as opposed to the people who participated, because that seems to be the crux of it. We don't know who's going to be involved in Luminaria next year. I'm fairly certain that if you look at the list of people that are on our board right now, there's probably going to be quite a few that aren't running, and possibly some that run and don't get elected. So these people are not going to have, the new board isn't going to have the history of this current board if they're not board members. So, and we don't know who's going to be on cultural affairs next board to run this.
Exactly, which is
So-
why you
so
might want to
there's-
bring it to more people's attention, because I won't be here. So,
But I mean,
I'm
that
just
would mean
saying.
that you would hopefully, or whoever would come to a meeting after the new board or the new committee in July or August and fill people in on cultural affairs and how to do I mean, Abby didn't know how to do a movie in the park, and she learned, and I don't know. I mean, I understand that maybe if the board wants to get in their licks and have a post-mortem, I don't think they really want to start discussing how to make Luminaria better for next year when it's not an event that we're going to be funding or voting on with this board. I mean, Barry does have a point, and I understand. I mean, that's why we're doing this in this committee, sort of a post-mortem and a way to air what went right and what went wrong. But I think it's going to really be up to the next board as far as who's on the Cultural Affairs Committee and what events we do.
Okay.
I mean,
And certainly in July, when there's a new Cultural Affairs Committee, and if they want to proceed with trying to do another one in December, the discussion can begin then at a board meeting, and all the board members can be invited to be planners for that event by coming to the Cultural Affairs Committee. Then
Well, that's
the
what
new
we
board
did.
members.
That's what we've been doing for 2
Right.
years. And you guys are
Yeah,
complaining about
exactly.
people not being involved. So it seems to me you might want to hear out more people anyway. But I
think
understand we have other issues to talk about.
it would be a good idea to try to get people involved in the 2 upcoming movie events. So it's not Barry and I, Barry and Richard doing the shopping, and Barry and I hauling everything from the office to the park. I mean, I would like to get some more board members involved in those events.
Those are good events. Yeah.
And-
Okay.
And we still don't, it's the same people who don't turn out for those either. So we're going to be talking till we're blue in the face, trying to get more people to show up to the events that are still under our purview, as opposed to one that's fairly far off in the future. I'd like to focus on going out with a bang with our two movie events
Cool. Okay.
and promoting them. And it's just my thought. But if the committee passes something or a board member brings something to me, it gets on the agenda. I don't have veto power. I don't want veto power. So I'm not saying yes or no to any of these issues going before the board. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Someone who's on the board may want to do that.
Okay, so can we move on to item number 7?
Mhm.
Yay. Okay, so item number 6, no, 7. Discussion and update on movies in the park, spring and summer. Did you all get my email forward from city? Yeah, they were both approved.
That's
So,
great.
yay. So let me see if I can show you. so far so Beamer Park created this flyer. Oops. So for the April event, we're gonna have minions, and it's going to be from 6 to 8. Food, snacks, soft drinks, music, and visit from community booths. I have reached out to the public library. They are confirmed. LAPD confirmed. Let's see. Nithya, the office of Nithya Roman, she's confirmed, and she's also going to be attending. Let's see, I've tried to reach out to the fire department, but they haven't called me back. And then I went online to try to get a hold of them by, booking them through their website, but the website is broken. So I have no other way to reach out. So if you know anyone from the fire department, please let me know, introduce me to them, because so far it's been a couple of weeks and they haven't called me back. Let's see what else. So this is the flyer for April. And then, one second. Close. 1 second, bear with me because I didn't download it. I have a lot of things. And then we have summer right here. Summer. Oh, also because it's April, I really like to do themes. So I just thought about the theme could be hats, spring hats. So get your hat ready. Yes, Barry.
Is Nithya gonna provide real food again, or is it just snacks from us?
No, she's before Jorge left, I submitted a budget to the city council to Nithya's office for hamburgers and hot dogs. And yeah, also the veggie hamburgers. So
they're paying for it.
And I already submitted the invoice from Beaman Park to Nithya, so we're not dealing with that logistics, because that's more to the paperwork. And I wanted to keep our paperwork clean and easier. So they're going to be handling that part. So as of today, that's what I know.
Good.
And also, let's see. And then we have the summer flyer. This is also a flyer that Beaman Park created. And the movie, they chose the movie, and it's going to be Moana. So we were talking, well, maybe the theme could be Hawaiian theme, aloha. So bring your aloha outfit or your flowers or flower shirts or something. And it's pretty much the same thing, just a different date, of course, and a different movie. And that's
somebody who did that flyer must have grown up in Europe, because we don't do 3 June 2023. We say June 3rd, 2023. It just looked very odd that way. And that's how they do it in Europe.
Beaman Park created this flyer. This is Beaman's Park. We don't have a flyer yet.
No, I mean, whoever did the one that you just showed for both movies.
That was Stephanie.
It's just a graphic
she
design
must
convention.
have grown up in Europe.
I'm gonna ask her to have some social conversation with her. Okay, so the budget is approved. I submitted the packet to our treasurer the second week of January, and there's no pressure. So and it got approved today, finally approved. So Barry, if I may ask Barry and Richard for the shopping, please, pretty please.
Yes, we'll
Yeah,
do.
you guys are the best of the
Even though
best.
we're gonna get new
No
credit cards
problem.
very soon.
Okay, whenever you can. I'm not, you guys know what to buy and the budget, so I completely trust you with that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
And so we're still in February, so we still have April, March and April, so we still have plenty of time. Then it would just be, I guess, Brandon and Scott and Richard and Barry. And
I could do
We're done.
something that night, even though I'm not on the board, but I'd be willing to volunteer.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And I know Brandon,
Yeah,
you put
I'll
those
be
up,
there.
so I know. So yes, thank you, Brandon. You're always there for the movies. You're a great support. Cyber hug to you, thanks, and to you too, Scott. So whew, you guys are my lifesavers there. Okay, and that's all I have for the update for movies in the park. Any questions, comments from the public? Going once, going twice, three, so nobody. Board members, any comments? No? Okay, so moving on to item number 8, comments from committee members on subject matter within the committee's jurisdiction.
I was just gonna say, Abby, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just like to plan a little bit ahead because I teach. So once February begins, the spring semester, my schedule starts getting a little bit tighter and tighter. So I like to I don't like to have things. I have this OC. I don't like to have things in my back burner because then I feel like this. So, all right. So get ready for my emails, Scott and Brandon.
I have a suggestion.
Yes, go ahead.
It's not going to be a serial meeting because it wouldn't be on an agenda item on a board meeting. But if you want to, you might want to email the board and ask if their opinions about Luminaria to save time at the board meeting. Again, it won't be an agenda item, so it won't be considered a Brown Act violation serial meeting. But they could email you and say, I like this, I didn't like that. So reaching out via email might, and it'll allow them to speak candidly about things and probably in more detail than they would if they were at a board meeting. So reaching out to the board and just saying, guys, any thoughts about Luminaria, what we did right, what we did wrong, that might yield some nice information for you.
Or how about, that's a good idea, but rather than email, we could also, well, that too, but also maybe creating a survey.
Like a form, yeah, maybe.
Like a form
Well,
in
save
Google.
the
It's probably an
comments.
email would be fine, probably.
Save the
What?
comments for July for whoever is then chair.
Yep.
And pass them along.
And pass them along. Yeah, we could do like a Google form,
Mhm.
survey, and.
I would
pass it
actually
along.
keep it really simple and just have it in an email because I think you're making too much work for yourself.
And
It's a
people
good
will
idea. It's a
be-
good
but-
idea, but just a simple email would suffice, and then you can compile them, and then people can read them and extrapolate whatever they so desire. But don't get too complicated with the Google Forms. I know we don't tap into our Google Docs and Google Forms. There's a wealth of stuff there on our Google Drive and Google Apps, but it might get too complicated. Just a simple email would probably do.
Ryan, do you want to send that email and compile that information? Because I am going to be a little busy with this movies in the park.
Yeah, totally. I'll
Yeah?
do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Mary,
Oh, I was just saying thumbs up to sending out the survey.
oh, okay. All right, so,
And perhaps the response, if we get any responses, they can be forwarded to the committee right before the next March meeting, so we can read them
okay.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
have a brief discussion on what if any comments were made.
So Brent can do that. All right, awesome sauce. So moving on to item number 9, closing comments by committee chairs. Other than thanking everyone for being here, I don't have any more comments. Thank you so much for your time. Your time and your hard work is always very much appreciated. So thank you so much. Right, do you have any comments?
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for your commitment, and I appreciate all of you, and I'm gonna miss you when I have to leave in July, but take care, and I look forward to the movie events and helping out with that. So, good night, everybody.
All right, so adjournment at 8:03. Okay, so long,
Fine.
goodbye.
Yep, there we go. And why won't it end? That's so weird.
If you don't end it for all, it's gonna just keep recording for like another
I
hour.
know, it's funny. It's so
And then-
funny.